Welcome to the sixth video in our Introduction to Macs video series here. We have been working our way through the Create panel, and we just covered lights, and I'm gonna touch on cameras real quick, and I'm just gonna create some objects here, and we'll go to full screen. Okay, so if we're going to talk about creating our cameras, as we see, we only have one kind of cameras to make, and we have two types, target or free. And let's say if we make a free camera, that's just the same thing with our target light. We can make this object, and we can rotate it, and we can see obviously how this guy is going to be looking at the world. And then we can hit C on our keyboard to shift into camera mode. I'll hit P to get back to perspective, or you can come up here and right click and go views, camera 1, and then again all of our tools down here are going to give us access to our main camera tools, just like it was with our perspective. So that's our free one, and then target obviously is the same thing as it was with our light. We click and drag to create the position that the camera is looking, and then we can move this around and do wonderful things with it. Again, hit C to move into it. I'm going to right click anywhere here, and we see that we can quickly go to select camera target, and now I'm actually picked on the place that the camera is looking, and now I can move this point around in space and actually change where my camera is looking. So good to know. Go back in. We'll go ahead and delete that. What I prefer to do, it's been so long since I've even gone to the Create panel to create a camera. What I prefer to do is to use my perspective view, and when I have found a camera angle that I like with my perspective view, what I'll do is hit Control C on my keyboard, and you will see that that has made a camera automatically. And if I go to the Modify panel, we see I'm selected on it, and you will see that it has made a target camera. I'm personally not a big fan of target cameras, except for in a very few instances, so I prefer to switch it to a free camera. And obviously here we have different lenses that we can run through, and you can obviously get picky with it here. There's a good 35mm lens for us. We can tell it to show the horizon. The cone we'll see if we were in another view. Our ranges, multi-pass effect. These are really cool. Let's say I'll pull this guy a little closer here and push him back into the distance even more. And I'm going to come up here, right click, and go select camera. And I'll say enable, and I'll go ahead and hit preview. And what this has done, it has given us a little preview in our view here. I don't know how well you can see this on the video. But let's say I want to pull my target distance in to like 50 and hit preview. And it looks like it's trying to focus on this one, so all these guys are blurring. Let's go 100. So right about here, it's like it's starting to focus on this guy. And I guess now it's starting to focus out here. And we keep moving it back, and now it's focused out here. We can also do motion blur, and just to quickly illustrate this, I will do a quick little animation here of this guy flying by. And if we go back to our camera, so I will find an area, so like right here, and I'll motion blur, I'll hit preview, and we can see what this guy looks like with motion blur applied. And what it does is it goes back into time and renders a few frames. And we can see what this is going to look like with our motion blur applied, and we can come down here and we can tell it to be, just a few passes, or we can tell it to do lots of passes. Obviously, the more passes, the smoother the blur is going to be. The problem with this is simple. I'm going to set this back to 12. This is pretty decent. This is what you have to keep in mind when you use the multipass effects. When I go to hit render, what it does is it renders all 12 passes one after the other, blending them on top of each other. And if we go in here and we start saying 50, all this kind of crazy stuff, we see it's just slowly rendering them and building them up. And I'm going to do this one more time. Okay, we can see that it's processing the passes, and that is just one frame. Obviously it went pretty fast because we're not really rendering anything complicated, but you definitely want to be wary of this if you want to use this in your animations, because it's going to take your render times and send them into the Stone Age. I personally don't like to use them because it just takes too long, but you should be aware of them. And that's really about it for cameras. I will, I'm sure, one day have an entire series on animating cameras, but the best thing that I can tell you is unless you know exactly what you're doing and are very experienced with animating in general, I would leave your cameras still and let whatever you're going to animate be in the shot, because the last thing that you want to see when you're trying to watch somebody's animation is the camera work just being all over the place. And it doesn't matter how good your animation looks, if the camera isn't animated well, the whole entire thing is going to look terrible. So just be wary of that. Those are our cameras. We're going to quickly run through our helpers here, and as you see, we got a pretty big list. And the main ones I want you to be familiar with to begin with are going to be the standards. Got a dummy, and that's just a stand-in object that does not render, that you can use for all kinds of things, from character rigging to animation. It has all kinds of purposes. We have a crowd, which I am in no way, shape, or form fixing to get into in this introductory series. Let's just say that this is going to do basically what it says, and it's going to allow you to create crowds and swarms of people. If you want to do 1,000 fish moving through the water, this is going to be your friend. So again, go to your help file if you want to get into it. I am not getting into this in the introductory series, so we're going to skip by that. I'm going to go to point helper, which is just another kind of helper that has some parameters. We can make it be box, tell it to have all these different settings and how big it's going to be, a constant screen size. You got all these different things, and they have their uses, believe it or not. Like, say for example, this tape measure. I come over here and click and draw, and I can see that this thing's almost 40 units across. That right there is almost 200. So if you need to measure something in 3D space, these tape measures are your friend. And obviously you've got a protractor. We can say pick object 1 from there, pick object 2 from there, and there's your angle if you want to get very specific with it. And these are things I seriously doubt anybody brand new to Max are going to need. dummies, points, and tape measures are the way to go. Then you have your space warps. These can be pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and just reset max altogether and create me a plane. And I'm just going to give me the chance to talk about another important thing. I'm going to hit F4 to take a look at, and I'm going to hit G just for a quick second just to turn that grid off. So as we can see here, our plane has some segments. We'll go to modify and we see that we've got these segments. If I set it back to 1, we have nothing, 2 and 2 obviously. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to our space warps, and we've got quite a few here to pick from. I'm just going to go ahead and skip down to our geometric deformable ones for a second. And I'm going to do a ripple, and I'll just click and drag and then create this one right here. And what this is going to do is this shape right here is going to drive and change anything that is bound to it. And what I mean by bound to it is we're using this tool right here, bind to space warp. So I'm just going to click on that, and this can go either way. We can click from the plane to the space warp, or we can go from the space warp to the plane. Either way, doesn't matter. And as I see, as soon as I did that and it released the mouse, our plane has changed. And notice that no matter where I move it up or down, it's not going to change. But if I move it on the X or Y axis, we're going to see it change. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it down there for a second, and this is going to give me the opportunity to talk about segments and mesh resolution. So I'm going to go back down to my plane, and we see as we add segments, we are adding more resolution to the mesh. We are increasing the total face count, which we see down here, but we are also, I'm just going to go ahead and type in 50 and 50. As we see, we are also given the mesh the ability to actually create and show for us this shape. So again, we can move this if we wanted. It's not going to do anything but the side to side, up and down. It's not going to do anything. But I can come over here to the phase, and I'm just going to turn on auto key and scroll to 100 here, and I'm going to type in 2 for the phase. And I'm going to go back to frame 0 and set this frame 0 phase 20. So now it goes twice through the phase, and this is the way you can fake splashes in the water. We see here's our amplitudes. Those can be adjusted. The wavelength itself, make the whole thing bigger, make the whole thing smaller. Decay away from the center. Let me see the way we're going here. Everything's moving inward, so if I came to the end and said -2, now everything's pushing outward. So that is just a quick example of our space warps. We've got wave, so same thing. We can bind these two, and then we go to our space warp, and we can animate the phase, which again would, we could use that to simulate a flag waving. Put some decay on it if we want. Have it just move there in the middle. And obviously if we had this positioned in different places, we could get different effects. We were trying to do a cool little flag waving. This was the easiest way to fake these kind of things. And obviously there's a lot to play with, lots of different ones to do. One of the ones everybody loves to do when they first start using Macs is the bomb. Everybody thinks that the bomb is the bomb, and it's cool for like the first 2 times you use it. Then it gets old. So I'll go ahead and bind it, and we see that the detonation is on frame 5, so we hit play, and we see that it is destroying our sphere. We have strength that we can adjust, and can also move the placement of this. This all could be animated. So if I put it here in the center, and it looks like it's actually getting exploded from the inside, we can tell it to spin the fragments. We can put some fall off on it, which is when the effect is going to start dissipating, like we've talked about before. Fragment size. So we get different pieces. How much chaos we're going to add to the explosion. And like I said, this is the kind of thing that's cool when you're first getting started. And I'm going to come over to our sphere here, and I want to throw a shell modifier on it, and it's like you're not wanting to bevel. Why are you not wanting to bevel for me? Fine, whatever. So anyway, our bomb here is cool. It gets old after a while. There are definitely some cool things you can do to it. That you might not have realized, but just wanted to point you in the direction, give you some things to think about and some things to play with. So those are our space warps, and obviously we have other ones to play with. Forces, these would be things really useful when it comes to particle systems. So if I make a spray, you see that again they are already animated for us. And we'll come over here and we'll do a wind, and we'll make the wind blow this way, and then again we will bind, and now we can see our particle system is being affected by the wind. You can tell the wind to blow harder, to have some turbulence, and our particles will be affected accordingly. And the last one is our systems, and again we just have one type, and bones, ring array, sunlight, daylight, and biped. You're going to use bones, biped a lot, and also our sunlight and daylight. The ring array is probably one of the most useless things I've seen. I'm not really sure why why we have this at all. I'm surprised it's still here. Can say 20, and we create, there's a ring of 20. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I don't really see the purpose. It's like it was something that was cool way back in the day. Now it's not, in my opinion. Daylight, click and drag to the compass, and there's our sunlight. Go to the motion panel, and we can actually set this up different, whatever hour month, year, everything, what location you're in. Where we're here on, say we're up down here in Mexico on a camera shoot, and we're out there getting shots and getting reference footages for an animation we're doing. Then we can actually come down there and say, okay, well, we were down here in Mexico City, and it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was, let's go ahead and adjust for daylight saving time, and it was April 27th, my birthday, and that is going to be the accurate sunlight setup for that time of day, that location, everything. So it's definitely useful, and you will use this a lot when we start getting into mental ray, but not yet. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of wrap up and finish here with the basics of the things that we can create when it comes to using Max. And obviously there's so many buttons and tools and different things that we can do that to sit down and just have a bunch of videos to take you through each one would take forever to get through. And again, that's why you've got your Max help, and why you can just mouse over something and it's going to tell you what it's called, and then you can go and look that up in the help file. For example, let's go to helpers, and we have the VRML97, and what does this do? We'll open up the help file and we'll go search, and VRML97, and double click, and now it's going to tell you all about it. Which one you want to know about? You want to know about this one, and it'll tell you how to use it, explain it, what are some tips. So again, these are wonderful, wonderful help files. I still use them to this day. So those are the basics, honestly, of just kind of going through different things that we can create, hitting the main ones that I think you need to know about the most. And for an introductory thing on Max, I think we're about done. There's probably one more video that will cover texturing and modeling, lighting, and texturing, and then maybe a basic one on animation, but we are about done. And I hope that you are just becoming familiar with Max a little bit. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.